to pick up the leaves before the snow gets to be too much.
Twitter changes their ad policy heading into the election year.
And Bolivia reckons with massive unrest and violence in recent weeks. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Patrick Ryan.
And I'm Eric Hedecost. News 11 starts now. First in local news tonight, winter is almost here as the first snowflakes of the season begin falling. But for people trying to get their yards cleaned up, the timing isn't great. Our own Kevin Syracuse shows us how the village of Fredonia is trying to help them out.
The race is on in Fredonia as the Department of Public Works is tasked with picking up all of the village's leaves before the snow accumulates. DPW General Supervisor Tony Gugino says that they are already on to their second method of picking up the leaves.
We take a wheel loader out, a skid steer with a specialized leaf rake, the attachment that fits on the front of it, and as people put out piles at the street, the skid steer will go out and push the leaf piles into the street, and then the wheel loader will come behind it, pick the piles up, and then we have dump trucks standing by where they dump the leaves into the dump trucks.
No matter the method, Gugino says that the 80 streets in the village can be cleaned up in less than 2 weeks, but the weather will factor into how many times they will go around the village.
Technically, that should be it. One leaf pickup, one sweep of the village per year. If weather permits and there's no snow, and we have the opportunity, if we see more subsequent piles or product out there to pick up, we'll try and do it.
Even though leaf removal is a lengthy process, there are still some community members who wish that there was a better way of picking up the leaves.
The biggest problem I have with the village leaf pickup is when they come around with the skid steer and the brush. It really tears up my front lawn and other people's front lawn and leaves a mess in the road. And I wish they'd just stick with just the leaf sucker, because they do, when they come around with the leaf sucker, that does a nice job.
However, Gugino says that they cannot use the leaf sucker in these wet conditions.
Dry weather is preferable when you're using a leaf sucker machine, because when the leaves are wet, they can actually plug up the intake chute into the machine.
And it looks like the DPW will be using the skid steer from here on out as a winter storm warning is in effect in Fredonia. Kevin Syracuse, News 11.
We contacted the Department of Public Works again, and they said that they now have one section left to clean up and should have it done by the end of this week.
Erica, thank you. Have you ever heard rumors and conspiracies about the man the Rockefeller Art Center is named after? Well, on campus tonight, journalist and author Carl Hoffman is speaking about Michael C. Rockefeller. The lecture is titled Mystery Solved and deals with the life and death of Rockefeller. Hoffman will also be speaking about the book Savage Harvest, which discusses what happened to Rockefeller when he disappeared off the coast of New Guinea during a quest for a primitive art.
And if you're a fan of the arts, this story might be interesting. Right down on Central Avenue in Dunkirk, there's a building undergoing some renovations and it's full of art. Sydney Mack went out to find more.
This historic building, known within the Fredonia Dunkirk community, was built on the corner of Central and 6th Street in the year 1907. This unique space was previously a church before being handed over to the Access of the Arts, although in its recent years the building had been completely walked away from. That is until 2 architects from Brooklyn took interest in the space.
The Adams has reopened as a space for the community to hold any kind of event that they want to. If you're interested in learning more, go to theadamsnewyork.org.
Their website will tell you more of the previous events they've held within their space, as well as what's to come with their events calendar. Their fall event schedule will come to a close on December 21st. Some events that have been held at the Adams include a circus cabaret, craft shows, Fredonia campus theater shows, musical performances, and a street hockey tournament, which were all a great success according to those who attended.
I attended the Crash Mat event. It was like a circus cabaret from Toronto and Montreal. but the event was like really cool. I think it was a treat for like everyone that was there.
Renovations within the Adams are continually underway, and they are expected to be fully renovated in the next coming years.
What we're expecting to do with this space is just to open it up to anyone in the community for anything that they can think of.
Their website is easy to navigate and informs those about the Adams, their memberships, events calendars, and market vendors. From Fredonia, I'm Sydney Mack with News 11.
The Adams is hosting an open house event for clubs and organizations to see inside and come to future events hosted at the Adams. The open house will be held on Friday, December 6th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Erica, thank you. Pulitzer Prize winner journalist David K. Johnston visited campus this past Saturday. Johnston was the keynote lecturer and was part of the annual SUNY Fredonia Society of Professional Journalists Conference. Johnston is best known for his reporting turned commentary on President Donald Trump and his finances. The campus community also had the opportunity to hear from 3 Fredonia alumni working in the communications industry: Buffalo Bills videographer Andrew Meyer, Buffalo News columnist Sean Kearse, and WKBW TV anchor Jeff Russo all gave insight into their careers and offered students advice. Johnston won his Pulitzer Prize in 2001.
And those weren't the only Fredonia students to meet a famous journalist recently. 7th, a former student, made an appearance on the Today Show in New York City. Kia Brown, of the class of 2013, fulfilled a dream when she was interviewed on the show about her recent book. The book is titled The Pretty One, on life, pop culture, disability, and other reasons to fall in love with me. The book is about Kia's journey of self-love from resenting her body and cerebral palsy to now accepting and celebrating herself and her disability. So from everyone here at Fredonia, congratulations, Kia.
All right, well, that is excellent. That's just great to see a Fredonia grad doing such
Yeah,
great things.
I always hear things about Kia Brown, and I want to meet her so badly.
I
So
know.
maybe
Hopefully she'll come to campus sometime.
Yeah, maybe the next SPJ conference.
Yeah, that'd be great.
knows?
And what a story.
Yeah,
That's
it's very
fantastic.
inspiring,
And
so.
even with the SPJ speakers, too. Fredonia
yeah.
graduates are out there doing it. So
They're
it's
doing
good to
so
see,
much. Love
for
it.
Sure. All right, well, when we come back, your national news and a look ahead at the weather going into Thanksgiving break. Back in a minute.
I'll be right back.
Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Topping national news last night, Democrats vying for the presidency went head-to-head in their 5th presidential debate. Candidates covered a lot of ground. According to the Associated Press, the talks about race during the debate made clear that the future Democratic nominee will need a racially diverse team in order to stay afloat. The issue of climate change, now called the climate crisis, got more attention too. Tom Steyer and Joe Biden went back and forth on their climate policies, and Pete Buttigieg called out President Trump's policies on farming. However, the candidates and moderators didn't make this the #1 issue. Several of the candidates made jokes, and Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard once again started to attack the Democratic Party. The impeachment inquiry was at the forefront of this debate, but it didn't do much to thin the playing field. The AP says the Democrats spent more time making the case for their ability to beat Donald Trump than trying to defeat each other.
All right, and the National Security Council aide said he thought President Trump's July 25th call to the Ukraine leader was, quote, inappropriate. So began the second week of the House's public impeachment hearings. 9 people will be testifying in front of the Intelligence Committee this week. Some who were on the now infamous phone call between the world leaders. To break this down a little better, here's yesterday's coverage from CNN, this week's hearings.
Day 3 of the public impeachment hearings, and the first 2 witnesses aren't holding back when it comes to how they felt about that July 25th phone call between President Donald Trump and Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky. A theme of the Republican defense of President Trump was that witnesses didn't have firsthand knowledge of the July 25th phone call between President Trump and the president of Ukraine, dismissing elements of their testimony as hearsay. But 3 of today's witnesses were on that phone call. Jennifer Williams, a foreign policy aide to Vice President Mike Pence, and from the National Security Council, Timothy Morrison and Alexander Vindman, who told lawmakers in his closed-door testimony that he reported concerns about the call within hours and was later told not to discuss it with anyone.
With the election less than a year away, most candidates are using any platform available to spread their message. However, one place you won't find political ads is on Twitter. The platform announced a ban on political advertising. The announcement comes after competitor Facebook is fighting back backlash for not fact-checking their political ads. The new ban has users asking, what is considered a political ad? Last Friday, Twitter came forward and gave their own formal definition of what they consider a political ad. The social media giant says content containing parties, candidates, elections, and other talk about politics will be prohibited. Some Twitter users see this new policy as a way to silence their voices. Twitter says it's enforcing their policy to make their platform a better environment. For the complete policy, visit business.twitter.com.
All right, well, Disney fans can now watch their favorite movies and shows on the company's new streaming platform, Disney Plus, as it enters the increasingly large arena of streaming services. On the first day of its release on November 12th, Disney Plus ranked in more than 10 million subscribers. However, we don't know how many of those will stick around after the free 1-week trial is over. Combining Disney classics Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic, the service boasts a library of almost 500 movies and more than 7,500 TV episodes. It was also including original series only available through the platform. A subscription for Disney Plus costs $6.99 per month or $70 a year. Compared to other popular streaming services available, that's on the lower end of the spectrum. And Jovanita Venturi is joining us on the desk right now for a little weather update, Anita.
Yes, I've never done weather before.
This is out of the ordinary for us.
It is. I'm excited.
You're going to do great.
Thank you. So we have seen quite the turnaround this week, starting with a few surprise inches of snow and ending with the inevitable sleet and mud. This upcoming week, we're going to see lots of on and off snow, but also a couple last looks at the sun for the season. There's a 90% chance of rain tonight leading into the morning. And tonight we could also experience winds as high as 48 miles per hour. Wind gusts tomorrow are expected to stay high, but will lessen with rain by the evening. Saturday will be mostly sunny and a high of 44 that won't last, as snow will follow that evening into Sunday morning. The rest of the week will still be on and off sunshine and rainfall, so be prepared. And we're currently under a lakeshore flooding warning and wind advisory until tomorrow at 10 a.m.
All right, well, that sounds like quite the forecast, Nina.
Right, we're going to see everything this week.
All right, sounds good. And we'll be right back with your international headlines and a look at sports with Kevin Syracuse after the break.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
6 feet of water. It's a record-breaking number and the deepest Venice has been underwater in more than 50 years. The Associated Press says the floods of the past week have probably caused hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage to the city. But material items aren't the only things leaving the city during this climate emergency. The population of the historic part of Venice and nearby islands have been dropping over the past generation. These are the parts most affected by flooding and where the most tourists go. This means that not as many people are there for maintenance. Venetians are frustrated at the lack of response from local government. After a referendum on December 1st, the historic part of Venice and the surrounding islands could get their own separate government.
All right. Well, in the South American country of Bolivia, they've seen some very real changes in the government in the last month. After a heavily disputed election last month, former left-wing Bolivian President Evo Morales has resigned and fled to Mexico City. On the same day he resigned, Senate leader Jeanine Áñez declared herself interim president with the goals to bring peace to the country and hold new elections. But as of now, she broke Bolivia's relationship with the socialist-led Venezuela and fired ambassadors appointed by Morales. All this has led to the Bolivian protesters on both sides of the issue, as well as police taking to the streets in an increasingly violent crisis. At least 31 people have died in the protests and 700 injured. Many people worry that the country won't be able to stabilize and more coups could take place.
On the other side of the world, there's more unrest. The European Union is calling for the closure of inhumane migrant camp in Bosnia. The camp is currently holding hundreds of migrants fleeing violent living conditions. The camp is located on a landfill and was deemed, quote, unfit by multiple organizations. On top of that, the camp is unable to provide any facilities for its inhabitants. The EU says the migrants held in the camp must be relocated by winter. But Kevin Syracuse now joins us to talk about some sports. So, what are we talking about today? Is it the Sabres? Because I've heard they're not doing so hot.
Yes, they started 9-1-1 and are, I believe, 2-7-2 since. So, not too good for the Sabres. They lost to the last place team the other night. Now they're in Boston, who's one of the best teams tonight. So, it's not looking too good. But as for Fredonia, the Fredonia State women's basketball team lost both of their games last weekend at the John Carroll tournament, falling to John Carroll 72-39 on Friday and to Capital 77-50 on Saturday. Morgan Davis had 9 points, while Anna Chacha had 5 points and 8 rebounds in Friday's loss. Ray White had 16 points, and Audrey Craffey chipped in with 10 in Saturday's loss. The women return home tomorrow night to take on Madai. Tip-off is set for 6 p.m. On the other hand, the men's basketball team is off to one of their best starts in recent history. Jordan Purvis has more.
The Fredonia State men's basketball team ended their 2018-2019 season with an overall record of 2-23 and 1-17 in the SUNYAC Conference. It is arguably the worst season in school history, or at least since the 2014-2015 season when the Blue Devils had a record of 2-22. Head coach Philip Seymour has served as a men's basketball coach since 2013. Over the course of 6 seasons, he has compiled a record of 28-96. According to the information from C3NY, a website that provides a database of names, salaries, and total earnings of individuals who were employed throughout New York, Seymour was listed as the second highest paid coach at Fredonia. But some questions still linger. What improvements does Athletic Director Jerry Fisk want to see this season? And does Coach Seymour see himself coaching the Blue Devils in the foreseeable future?
Last year was a tough year. The team went out and they competed. They worked hard. It just didn't work. It didn't happen for them. They had some nice leads that they didn't hold on to, but they kept working. So we're ready to put that one in the rearview mirror.
This is where I'm at. So this is what my focus is. So my main focus is these guys and this year, right? And then next year, then we'll worry about next year, what happens next season. But my focus is here because if I'm thinking about that, my attitude is going to be different and it'll be different around them.
Next up, the Blue Devils are headed to Rochester for the Nazareth tournament to take on Vassar on Friday. Reporting from Fredonia, I'm Jordan Purvis with News 11.
The Blue Devils defeated Vassar and then lost to Nazareth last weekend. They then went down to Pennsylvania Tuesday night where they defeated Waynesburg 77-64 behind 24 points from Daquan Smith and Dada Bryant. They will be headed back to Pennsylvania tomorrow night where they will take on Pitt Bradford at 7 o'clock. And finally, it's been exactly 1 week since Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garrett committed one of the dirtiest plays in NFL history. Garrett ripped off Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph's helmet and then used it as a weapon as he struck him on his head, causing the NFL to suspend Garrett for at least the remainder of the season. Browns defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi was suspended 1 game for then shoving Rudolph from behind, and Steelers center Marquise Pouncey was suspended 3 games for punching and kicking Garrett in Rudolph's defense. Rudolph was fined over $35,000 for initially trying to take off Garrett's helmet, and both teams were fined $250,000. Here's what Steelers coach Mike Tomlin had to say about the incident.
It was ugly. It was ugly for the game of football. I think all of us that are involved in the game, particularly at this level, want to safeguard and protect the game, its integrity. And in that instance, it was compromised, obviously, with an unfortunate incident. And so none of us want those things to transpire. It did. We were a part of it. We accept responsibility for our actions within it. It was ugly. It was ugly for the game of football. I think all of
And the NFL just announced today that Garrett's and Ogunjobi's suspensions have been upheld, while Pouncey's has been reduced from 3 games to 2. These two teams will square off again next Sunday in Pittsburgh.
Sounds like that should be a good game in those next 2 weeks.
Oh, for sure, because now both teams are going for a wild card, and the Browns are without their best defensive player, and Pouncey will still be out. So.
All right, well, we'll have to see what happens. Thank you, Kevin. It's been a busy week, but when we come back, we'll have a couple more odd stories and one more look at the weather.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. First in odd news tonight, a college student is in Massachusetts got a response to a letter he wrote 9 years ago. That's right, Max Vandenberg wrote a message, put in a bottle, and threw it in the ocean in 2010 when he was only 10 years old. A man found it on the beach in the south of France and wrote a letter back to Massachusetts. Vandenberg posted pictures of the original letter and the response on Twitter.
And finally, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, angry turkeys. Tom Rivers Adult Community located in New Jersey was in for a surprise this past week. Instead of getting ready to have a turkey on the dinner table, members of the community were met with wild turkeys running down their streets. These turkeys damaged property as well as attacked anyone that tried to make them leave. You'd think these turkeys would be trying to stay low due to the upcoming holiday. In a week, the New Jersey Wildlife will be removing roughly 40 to 60 wild turkeys from this community.
Wow, that's truly some wild turkeys, if you ask me.
I know,
Erica.
it sounds terrifying.
It is. Well, hopefully the weather isn't that terrifying. Jovanita
so.
Venturi joins us now for a look at your extended forecast. Anita.
All right, thank you. This week will be very fickle in terms of rain and shine. Tonight, we'll see heavy rainfall and wind gusts as high as 48 miles per hour. As a result, we are under a lakeshore flooding warning and wind advisory until Friday at 10 a.m. Saturday will be partly sunny with a high of 44 and a low of 34 leading into Sunday. Monday and Tuesday should be partly sunny as well, with a chance of rain on Wednesday. As of right now, Thanksgiving looks like it'll be fairly sunny with a high of 42.
All right, Anita, thank you. So how'd you like weather? Was it good?
I don't know. I don't know if it's for me, but...
Well, I think we can all agree you did a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Sabres just scored.
Did they? Is that some breaking
1-0.
news about the Sabres?
Yep.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Kevin. And I want to thank all of our viewers at home and our control room crew for getting it done in there. And we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and a safe break from all of us at News 11. Have a good one.